all like a blood red, like kind of Deadpoolish looking gargoyle gecko. And
Yep.
I commented, and he was like, "What should I name this gecko?" And I posted tampon. And then I posted below it. I was like, if this comment gets the most likes, you have to name it tampon. And it ended up getting like 200 and something likes. And
nice.
I have not heard back. But if that gecko is named tampon, that's the gecko I want.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about,
Yeah.
which is his best production of all time.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Right? And if we name the best gecko that has been produced
it would be
in
amazing.
the United States,
oh my God. But yeah, definitely that one.
At least get a brand deal, call it Tampax or something.
Yeah, you get some sponsors. You don't have to worry about selling geckos anymore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Gecko Cove Connection. We have today Chase joining us from Rhac'N'Roll. Welcome, Chase.
Hey, how's it going? Oh, dude.
Oh,
cool.
nice. Light show. I like it.
Show.
Wow, you are the first guest to have that kind of intro.
Did you do that? Or did I do that?
We talked. I don't know. No, you did
Whoa,
that. That was fantastic.
If you do this, it does it. Oh my God, that's crazy.
That's awesome, man.
That's sick.
Did you know that was going to happen?
I did not. I thought that was you.
Seriously?
I thought that was part of your intro.
No, that's awesome.
What, dude? That's crazy.
Oh, man. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
So wait, it must be the program you're using or something.
No, do this. Do the horns.
If I do this? No, it only does it to you.
What?
Only does it to you.
What is happening? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the program loves you. And
so.
it's going with your brand.
It's my first time, so it's trying to get me to love it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this program's sick. Check it out.
We'll take it. So let's talk about the name since you got that kind of intro. Where did you come up with Rhac'N'Roll?
Rhac'N'Roll. Well, I'm a musician.
Awesome.
That's why I moved to Austin from the DFW area after I graduated college. I was like, where can I get good at music really quick, right? And I was like, okay, Austin. So I moved there, was a touring musician for a really long time. Then when the pandemic hit, I couldn't tour anymore. I also bartended. And that's kind of when I got back into the hobby, which I've kind of been on and off my whole life.
Okay.
Whenever I could, I moved a lot. But I actually got really into gargoyle geckos. Like, it was the first time I discovered that they existed. So I got really into the Rhac'Dactylus genus, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn my hobby into a business, see how it goes, and just kind of like blended my love for the New Caledonia geckos with my music background and Rhac'N'Roll.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm. It sounds like one of those names that just everybody should have thought of. It's that classic, right? At least in my opinion. I'm really surprised no one else.
There could be. They're probably out there.
Could be, but you're the one that I know of, so you're the first.
Well, thank you.
And I remember when I was trying to come up with different names, and I was chatting with my wife, and she got kind of sick of me throwing out names, especially rack puns. Because it's easy with rack puns to offend women. So we'll try not to do that on this podcast.
It's like the ball pythons. There's a million different ball python puns for the names. Yeah, it's
right. I since I'm a Bob, I have to love Bob's balls.
That's true. But I do like Bob's balls. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, great dude, great pun. So, but yeah, so name is pretty fantastic. So, what kind of music do you play?
So I'm in 3 bands. I play in a band called Big Loser. It's like indie punk. That's kind of like my main band, if you would.
Nice.
And then I also do a solo thing that's more like it's more like Americana folk, singer-songwriting stuff. And then I technically have a 3rd band that started pre-pandemic. That's more like indie pop rock, but I don't have the money to fund the finishing of our album, so it's kind of on hiatus for now.
Sell a few more geckos,
dude.
And then you can put on your album, brought to you by Rhac'Dactylus.
That was the species. Plan, for sure.
That's awesome. Very cool. So, okay, you said that. Let's go back a little bit. You said that you got back into reptiles.
Sure.
So when did you first get into reptiles, and what kind of species did you work with?
Oh, baby. Look, I grew up in the country and like middle of nowhere, Texas. I lived in a town that was population 610, Lindsay,
Okay.
Texas. Shout out. And I had nothing to do. So I just like gravitated towards like creeks and places of water because I grew up like fishing and hunting and just
Nice.
started to become fascinated with reptiles that I found there. I remember the first time I saw like I know it's not a reptile, but first time I saw a tadpole, I was like, "What is this
Mm-hmm.
thing with arms and legs and a tail in the water?" And back then I'm 34, so like back then there was no internet, so it was just like
Nope.
discovery, like discover for yourself. And I just started to really get into the turtles, lizards, snakes, and everything that I found down there. Um,
Okay.
and then that kind of just evolved into my parents would take me to Petco and I'd go check out the reptile section and I would be fascinated. And my first reptile was a golden gecko, and
Okay. Yeah.
it was like $10 or something like that. It actually, sidebar, escaped and jumped on my mom while she was sleeping, so that was a
Oh,
really good
nice.
memory for us.
Yeah.
um,
And that's how
but
we got
yeah,
rid of the gecko.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, actually, I found it and then I put it back. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, I just, I would get a pet reptile whenever my parents would allow it. I had a leopard gecko, and as I got older and I was able to kind of buy my own stuff, that's when I started to pretty much accrue. I got really into leopard geckos. I bred leopard geckos when I was in college.
Okay.
And that's actually how I met Sean, who runs the Hertz shows down here, if you're familiar with those, because he lived in Dallas and he would sell me
Nice.
leopard geckos. And then when I graduated college, that's kind of whenever I got out of the hobby because I moved to Austin and I was like, moving apartments every, 10 to 12 months. So I just didn't have time for it. Um,
Absolutely.
so I took a long hiatus from reptiles, to be honest, which I missed them, but
But you got to live your 20s.
yeah.
It's hard saying, hey, I got to cut this date short. I got to go spray my geckos.
Well, it's not so much
That's not
that,
usually a
but
great line.
yeah, I mean, if I was, it's because I was a touring musician and because I wanted
Oh,
to
that
tour.
too.
So like,
Yeah.
I didn't have time to be with, be at home all the time. So I'd be gone for
Right.
like 2 months, and yeah, I just couldn't. It wasn't sustainable for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my story of reptiles, at least.
That's awesome. So then you got back into reptiles, obviously with the pandemic, everybody's, back home. You
Sure.
got that itch. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you see Instagram blowing up and TikTok. And so what was the first gecko you saw that got you? Ooh, what is that?
It was a
Do you
gargoyle
remember?
gecko. So like
Okay.
I can't remember how I came upon it, but I discovered Morph Market for the first time.
Yeah.
And I somehow landed on a gargoyle gecko, and I was like, "What? This comes from the same islands as a crested gecko? What is this thing?" And so I
Yep.
bought my first gargoyle gecko 2020 from Water Girl Creations, and I remember I had such an idiot. Like at the beginning, like I
Yeah,
bought
we
the
all are.
gargoyle gecko, not knowing that they fired up and fired down. So I bought
Oh,
this.
nice.
I bought this fired down gargoyle gecko from Water Girl Creations page, and they ran me through the whole shipping process. It was through Morph Market, picking up from a FedEx hub. And I go to pick up the gecko, and I open it, and it's fired up, and I'm like, "This isn't my gecko," like an idiot. And I messaged them, and they're like, "Yo, check this out. They fire up and fire down, actually." And I was like, "Oh, cool. This is
Yep.
my gecko. Then. Sweet."
Yeah, play it off.
Yeah. I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
I knew that.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. It's just the patterning was different. But yeah, and then that quickly branched into Leachianus, which I was just like absolutely obsessed with.
Yeah.
Did not know they existed. And then yeah, that really just like I was obsessed with the new cows like immediately, and then that's kind
Yeah.
of what I wanted to base my kind of business around, I guess.
Sort of spirals from there. Yeah. Did you have the experience at the show where someone just hands you a lychee and you're like, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
Did you
I
have
think
that?
it was Carl at South Tex Gex, who is
Oh,
one
yeah,
like
Carl's man.
honestly my mentor this whole time. He's helped me
Okay.
so much. But yeah, he was the first one. Once I started getting into the new cows, I would go to shows just to talk to Carl and just like pick his
Yeah.
brain on like I used to pick his brain on like the Sarahs and like just everything, and he gave me so much knowledge prior to my own like research and stuff. But yeah, the first time he helped let me help hold like a lychee, I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
this is like
And he's
this
got
is a
nice lychees.
yeah, dude.
Yeah. What's funny about him, real quick, is so I reached out to him when I first started
Uh-huh.
because he was on someone else's like YouTube, thing. I think it was either Dave Kaufman
Was
or
it like
Catalia.
the whole tour?
Yeah, it was the tour of his place.
Yeah, that's the first one
Um,
I saw. Too.
right, and so I see that, and I'm like, okay, well, and that's kind of the power of YouTube. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
is you feel like, oh, I can trust this person. I've actually seen behind the curtain,
Sure.
right? And so I reach out and I message him on social media. I forget which platform exactly. I think it was Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing, absolute silence. And
Sure.
then like 6 months later, he gets back. He's like, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't check this very often, but
He's
yeah, here,
horrible. Yeah.
happy to help you. And he was so helpful.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing him for the first time at Tinley. He remembered me. He would
Yeah.
give me so much of his time. I mean, he's a big deal in my
Yeah.
opinion, and I'd love to get
Just
him on this podcast.
oh, why don't you?
But yeah, he'll just give you his time. It's fantastic.
Why don't you have him on the podcast? Why haven't you had
Oh,
him
I
yet?
will. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I gotta convince him and ask him. So
I'll
we're only
yeah.
what, this is episode 19. So
Okay.
anybody who
Next
says
show,
yes, I'll have on.
I will talk him into it.
Sweet.
But yeah, he's like, it's crazy how his passion has not waned over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think like maybe a few years back, he told me that he had just quit his like full time job to do Geckos full time, and that's like
That's awesome.
20 years or so, and just working with new cows for that long, and still just being so passionate and helpful and friendly about it is
Mm-hmm.
really admirable.
It is. Well, and I think, that goes to the species that we work with.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. This is sort of the Wild West, in my opinion, right
Sure.
now, especially with gargoyle geckos. And, right now we're a little bit farther along with crested geckos, but we don't know very much. Their genetics are so variable. We're just starting to figure out how everything works. And I think, we're starting to scratch the surface with some of the line breeding. And so when you say, it's surprising he stayed passionate, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because unlike other reptiles that he could have been working with, I mean, there's always something new. There's always some new
That's true.
goal. It does not stagnate. The only thing that stagnates apparently is the economy, which we'll get to later.
Yeah,
But
of course. If we
yeah,
have to talk about it, sure. It's a sore subject.
yeah, we don't have to,
No, okay.
but fair enough. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm always looking for something new, and you can expand your collection so big
Mhm.
eventually to encompass so much. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is like I think that you're right. Like we've only scratched the surface because like let's take ball pythons for instance because it's an easy example. But the first few genetic traits that came up were like banana and stuff like that, and it was just like
Mm-hmm.
whoa, this is crazy. And then now, fast forward 20 years or 25 or however long it was, you have bajillions of traits and more popping up each day. And I do personally think that for gargoyle geckos, like the red and the orange,
Mm-hmm.
that's like not limit. We're not limited to that. I think that like more traits
Okay.
will come, and I think that like it will evolve as the ball pythons did. Um, and it's not even really my hope. I just think that's going to happen
Sure.
because if you think about the colorations in gargoyle geckos right now, as far as domestic breeding, they're pretty limited.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that they can grow and kind of capture different colors, but it's
So
just
where
kind
do
of
you see them growing then? Because I mean, obviously we've got the reds, we've got the oranges, yellows, black and whites,
sure,
but everything's on the warmer end of the spectrum.
yeah,
Where with ball pythons, they were kind of a brownish, and they've got some yellows and
mm.
almost purple looking ones now, right? Do
Oh
you
yeah,
think we're
I
ever
got
going to get to those cooler colors on this with some of the
Actually,
pastel jeans or pinks.
let me ask you a question first. Do you
Yeah, go ahead.
know the first like red stripe or orange stripe? Do you happen to know like where those came from? I don't. I'm just
So
curious
I
to
don't
know
know
if you do.
exactly where they came from, but from what I hear, just in talking to other people on this podcast and doing a little bit of reading,
Mhm.
the original ones that came from New Caledonia, they had, stripes were not as prevalent as the blotched or reticulated.
Right.
But if you listen to people like Rack House, they'll say that, when they first got some of their geckos, there was a little sliver of red or a little
Mhm.
sliver of orange, maybe a few little specks of red, with the blotches.
Mhm.
And that just over time has grown. It was always there. And,
Mhm.
I've even heard that some of the geckos that they had, Alan Rapace and some of the big names there, in their big collections, they had some animals there, they said, that could rival some of the best today. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's still true with some of the stuff that's come out this year,
Yeah, yeah,
but
I don't know
it's
about that.
still kind of cool that even if it's 50% of what came out this year,
True.
you know,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive straight out of the wild.
Yeah. I guess I would say that like the yellow, and that's what I have been trying to work on. But like the yellow really hasn't been um, expanded to the degree that it could be expanded to.
Okay.
And there's really no telling with like reptile breeding and genetic traits in general. Like something could pop up. Something always
Oh,
pops up.
absolutely.
And that will be expanded upon. Look at like the lily whites. Like that was new. Now you got lily whites that look crazy compared to like 10 years ago what crested geckos were doing. So like it's just a
Absolutely.
matter of time before something else, another genetic trait pops up, and then somebody grabs that opportunity and kind of reproduces that trait.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time before one of those things pop up. And who knows if that's, I mean, I'm hoping for a melanistic gargoyle.
Yeah,
Like,
that'd
how
be cool.
sweet would it be to just have a blacked out
Yeah, that'd
gargoyle
be cool.
gecko? Be
Yeah.
awesome. So, and
Yeah.
then, yeah. So, something like that would be kind of fun. It's interesting you bring up yellow base.
Hmm.
So, you didn't bring up yellow base. You just said yellows.
Sure.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you mean yellow base? Do you mean yellow pattern color? Because pattern color and base color in gargoyles, in my opinion, are separate.
Sure. I'm mostly mean base, but I would like to expand that base to like have an all yellow gargoyle gecko. Like that
Yeah.
base color. It's just I haven't seen many breeders try to. I know they're out there, but try to like bring out the yellow. And like I think if you get to a certain degree where you expand that yellow more and more, I think it's possible to get into the pattern. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just like a theory.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so some of again, they're all theories right now, and that's the fun
Sure.
of this, right?
Yeah.
Yellow pattern, I think, is pretty genetically sound. If you
Mm-hmm.
take some yellow based animals, now yellow, whether it's yellow based, red based, orange based, I don't care what the base color you're talking about.
Sure.
Currently, with the stock we have, it takes time to develop.
Sure.
Anywhere from a year to 3 years. So
Oh
you
yeah.
don't even know sometimes with the babies. There's some indicators, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a guaranteed way unless they start to show it really young.
Sure.
Now, what I would love to see is a red base, yellow base, orange base, you name it,
Mm-hmm.
come out of the egg
Yeah.
with that base color, right? Just like we saw this year, there was a few people who posted Phantom Eye babies that
Yeah.
came out with the Phantom Eye really early on.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, that would be an awesome line to start.
That would be cool.
Be amazing, right? Because then there'd be no guesswork. Yeah, this is a red base baby.
Yeah.
How sweet would that look? But then also going back to the coloration, um, I think it was an interview with Red Rack and Tiki's Geckos and Eclipse Exotics. I was watching their YouTube interview.
Sure.
And if I remember correctly, and again, this is just their theory, yellow is hard for the color, especially even orange,
Mm.
because when you breed, let's say, two orange geckos together,
Sure.
their theory is that they stack on each other and create more reds, which I've seen.
Like the
And
oranges stack
so,
to make red.
yeah, so it's just, it's almost a spectrum.
Sure.
And so when you have two geckos that have the same, beautiful yellow,
Sure.
right? And you're hoping to reproduce that by pairing them together. You might actually have so much melanin genetics coming in,
Sure.
or it's not melanin, whatever that color
I don't
genetic
know what yellow
is.
falls under, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in any of this. All right, just having fun chatting geckos.
Yeah, for sure.
But that builds on each other and goes up from yellow to orange to red.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? So the question is, what do you have to do? Do you have to take a yellow gecko and a black and white gecko, breed them together? I don't know.
Sure.
But it'd be kind of fun to find out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that was their theory, correct?
That was their theory.
Yeah, if that theory is true, which I don't know anyone who is like studying gecko traits on the scientific biological level, then yeah, it would make it definitely difficult because you can't go backwards. You can only go from yellow to orange to red, but you can't go, you can't, go back. You can only step.
No, not unless I guess you're mixing in white bases or, white patterning.
Yeah, you have to get the color just right.
Right. It'd be a lot easier if you just like dip paints and, mix them together and start painting.
Just like that all black gecko that Tiki's posted a while ago.
I tried to give that guy, whoever that was, the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, no one would be that, silly.
Was there ever a conclusion?
I don't know.
Because I asked David, and he was like, the guy says it's real. I think it's real. But then it just kind of faded away.
I think the mob canceled it.
The topic,
yeah.
The mob.
So, it was the Instagram, Facebook, everybody mob. Yeah. So they were coming at that guy with pitchforks. So,
man, that sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to share something like that, hopefully it's real. I would hope so. In this community,
real, it sucks. If it's not real, good on them.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, and I think we were messaging back and forth about this a little bit, but that's one thing I've mentioned in this podcast before is I know there's drama out there. Clearly, there's drama out there. I haven't seen it yet. Not with gargoyles. With crescents, I've seen it. With other species, I've seen it. And that's kind of the nice thing is most of the people that I reach out to, and again, I know it exists out there, but everybody's been super nice, and really personable.
It's kind of if you think
almost
about
eerie.
They're kind of like how they say dog owners are like their dogs. I think new cow owners are like the new cows. They're super chill, low maintenance. Room temperature, give them some smoothie. Like low maintenance.
Yeah.
So that's why they're not so like aggressive. But if you take like say the ball python community. Ball pythons are calm and gentle, but like if they strike, they're aggressive. Like they can bite you and hurt you. So I like there's a parallel there.
Fair enough. Yeah, you could really dive into that because I'd laugh. Imagine what you can say between crested gecko owners, gargoyle gecko owners, and lychee owners.
Oh yeah, there's a difference. Yeah,
where the gargoyle specific owners are the only ones that don't shit and smear it on the glass. There's
got to be some shit jokes in there for sure. Can we cuss on
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, try to limit it, but
limited. I already said my cuss word.
I clicked that button that says not for children, but
gotcha.
I'll play this in the car with my kids there. So, and then they'll say, turn off the gecko stuff. We want Disney.
What's the difference?
Yeah. So, very cool. Well, okay. I want to get into a little bit of how you keep your geckos. I watched a bunch of, your reels and Instagram. I don't have TikTok, so I didn't follow you there. I noticed you were pretty big on TikTok too.
No worries. Thanks.
But looks like you're doing bioactive enclosures, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. I tried to, when I started out, that's kind of like what I wanted to do for the aesthetic. And then also, for the, this is a debated topic, whether it's good or not for the gecko, like if it, makes their life better or not. I honestly don't think that one, like if you're going to do tubs with paper towels and all that, or bioactive, I honestly don't think that they thrive one way or the other. I think that they're, kind of equal. But when I did it, it was like mostly for the work that I would have to do. Because I knew I was going to start this out by myself. I knew I was going to do it on like a bigger scale than normal. So I wanted to, get everything hooked up to a lighting misting system, get everything bioactive to where I just had to worry about feeding them. And if I wanted to clean the glass, I could. And then
Yep.
just
There you
kind of
go.
like, maintenance on a lower level, checking everything every day. But trying to reduce the cleaning as much as I possibly could.
Yep.
But I do actually am. So I have an intern. His name's Riley, and
Real nice.
I started to experiment with tub rack systems that are bioactive. Um,
Okay.
just from, I have like this. I keep all my hatchlings in 12-quart tubs, little tub rack.
Yeah.
I cut out little mesh, like that. But I started to experiment with putting like real dirt, isopods, springtails, putting in nozzles for misting system in the back, and we're actually
Would
going
be
to.
interested to talk to you about that.
Yeah. I'm all about making things as easy on me as possible.
Yep.
Just thinking smarter, not harder. But
Yep.
we're gonna build a shelving unit that has like basically these kind of bigger tubs that I ordered from Temu that are like shoe boxes,
Yeah.
um, to actually install like lights and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Sweet.
something similar to that.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I keep all my geckos are like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it definitely does cut down on cleaning up the back end of meals
Yeah,
with a lot of the geckos. Which again, anything that cuts down on cleaning and maintenance, it's going to help with the longevity of you just wanting to stay in the hobby,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
And anybody else. So I'm all for automation, as long as you're still checking in on geckos, which everybody does, because these are pretty animals and we want to see them.
no, of course.
I've thought about, with these here,
Mm,
they're stationary.
sure,
And so I was thinking about possibly hooking them up to a misting system,
sure.
and just trying them out the way they are right now.
Yeah,
I had the 6-quart tubs. I'm pointing over here because that's where I kept all the 6-quart tubs I don't use anymore.
gotcha.
But with those, how did you hook those up? And were you able to then like open and close them? Were they pull outs?
Yeah,
Like,
so this is the issue that I had, which I just started to experiment with it, where so they're pull-out tubs, right? Drawer
mm-hmm.
tubs. And
Yeah.
so I just I put, punched a hole in the back, put a little misting nozzle, and basically the tubing has to be long enough to pull the tub out, right? On each one.
Yep.
But what I found is it worked, but the Mist King pump that I was using wasn't powerful enough to get to all the nozzles because there's so much tubing.
It was so long.
So
Yeah.
that's why I'm going to switch those little, shoe things have like a door that you open. So that way it'll. What is going on with this thing?
It's
Do you
okay.
see that?
Oh, yeah, it likes you.
It really does. Heck yeah.
If I do it, nothing happens.
But yeah, so once we get that, then the tubing will be shorter, so the water won't have to travel so far, and I think
Okay.
that's going to work better. But I think that's the key. If you have it's tough to do. With
It's hard with drawers. Yeah, I was trying to think of the engineering, so it was interesting you said you tried that because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I racked my brain on how I could make that work because, before I knew that I liked these, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and even someone came out today saying, someone actually down in Texas saying there's too much humidity where they are, and the bolts rust, right? That are the magnets.
Sure.
And so it caused some issues. For me, things dry out so quickly here in the winter.
True.
I can keep them perfect.
Yeah,
So I can spray them 3 times, twice a day, and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, because they're stationary, it's so much easier to put up a system on them.
Yeah.
I think it's a great solution.
Yeah. Then there's going to be other things that I'm going to try, but basically trying to make it as bioactive as possible. And honestly, the bioactive, I wanted to go that route because like just plants in the house is nice. Circulating that carbon dioxide and oxygen is good. And I've always liked plants.
Absolutely.
So that was a benefit.
Yep.
Bonus.
Keeping them alive is half the battle.
Yeah.
Especially when those geckos are jumping all over them. So I feel like with
the
some of the
leeches,
crusties and
the
yeah,
leeches
the
are
leeches.
almost impossible. I've gotten
Yep.
it to work, but like Gargs and Cresties are not so bad. Like Golden Pothos, if anyone's
Yep.
listening, looking for a good plant, you can propagate the crap out of it, and it grows really well. Doesn't grow too much if you have the humidity and the misters right, but that's a really good
Yep.
plant. I've reused it multiple times.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with any of the pothos,
Mm.
and snake plants are another really good one. Nice and
Yeah,
sturdy.
sure. I haven't
So,
tried those actually.
yeah, because especially they're very upright, and the gargoyles love them
Really?
because they'll just kind of go in between some of the thicker leaves and kind
Oh,
of
sure.
perch right in the middle of them. And then actually at the base of it, it'll keep some of the water, kind of like a bromeliad. And
Oh,
so
interesting. Didn't know that.
I've seen them drink out of that when I had live plants. I've gone away from live plants currently.
Hmm.
I'm always tinkering and reworking
Sure,
this stuff. Eventually, I want to go back to bioactive for the reasons we've just talked about.
sure.
But I found it interesting trying to, with my first breeding season, I went away from having the one bioactive enclosure because digging for eggs
Sure.
was an absolute nightmare,
That's
in my
something I've been
opinion.
tinkering with as well.
Yeah, so I saw one of your videos on the cannibalistic crusties.
Oh
Can you
yeah,
tell people about that?
yeah. So what I was told from multiple people was that the Gargs will be cannibalistic, so you can't let their babies hatch in the enclosure. Same with leeches, but the
Yep.
Cresties, they're fine. You can let the eggs hatch in there; they'll be fine. So I have about whenever this happened, probably like 4 breeding groups of Cresties. They're all bioactives. I'm letting them lay the eggs in the soil, and the babies hatch in there, getting the babies out. I see them. Um, but I had this one group together for a year, and I was like, no babies, no babies. Like, what's going on? Like, they were full grown adults. I think I had a male and 2 females, and one of the females was proven. I think the male was proven. So I was like, what's going on? And so I took out everything, and I just found all of these eggs that had hatched, but no babies. And I double checked the enclosure, make sure there's no way a baby can get out. And yeah, apparently one of the adult geckos was eating the babies,
Ooh.
which was just like kind of mind blowing to me.
Yep.
And I've recently I redid their whole thing. Um, but yeah, that's definitely a struggle with the Gargs and the
Yep.
Leechies. And someone reached out to me on Instagram about this. I basically try to cover as much of the soil as I possibly can, and then just
Hmm.
put a lay box. And then most
Yep.
of the time, they'll go in there. I'm just now started to do this. I have a lot of bioactive enclosures, so I had to redo a lot of them, and it's working so far. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you have to cover up every little nook and cranny that they could get into to bury them in the soil with the Gargs, so that
Yeah.
they don't lay eggs in there and the babies hatch and are eaten.
which is not fun. No, we don't want to
No,
lose the babies to that. Yeah, how I have it right now for laying, mine is not bioactive, but I do have a substrate.
gotcha.
I have a mix of a few different substrates in there that they kind of create a nice soil.
Sure.
And what I do is I keep it pretty thin, 3/4 of the way around, right? Just
Mhm.
enough to keep humidity,
Sure.
way better than paper towel. And then I mound it up in one corner. So when I'm going to search for eggs,
Hmm.
all I have to do is go in the one corner. And it's
Sure.
usually the corner closest to me in the window here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's worked pretty well so far.
There's a but.
But again, I have to disturb the surface. I can't see into it, right?
Right.
And so that's where I originally thought about doing lay boxes and then decided to do this based on a suggestion I got.
Sure.
And it worked really well when I had the bins down there because they're clear,
Sure.
right? So all I had to do was lift up the entire bin. I could
Right.
see if there was something going on or if I knew she was digging.
Yeah.
But now that I'm in these enclosures, I'm not lifting those up.
True.
And I feel like I'm disturbing the surface, the substrate too much.
Yeah.
So I might be switching over to lay boxes. And if I do that, I'll probably go bioactive everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Goliath Reptiles. Just it was a podcast two ago, and then we were talking afterwards. He's got these lay boxes he prints, and he does bioactive. And what he said is, what's nice about it is not only can you take that just out, check it because it's got a clear bottom the ones he makes, but also you can leave it bioactive and not have to worry about the isopods or some of the species. It depends on what kind of bugs you keep
Sure.
messing with the eggs. Because if you leave the eggs in there, sometimes the bugs will mess with it.
Yeah.
I think that's usually when they go bad, but I don't know. Have you had that experience with bugs attacking your eggs?
No, I just use like basic. I think I actually have some powdered blue, powdered orange, and the big giant isopods, the Dalmatian ones or
Yeah.
whatever. Cow something. I don't know isopods.
I'm so bad with those. Yeah,
me too. But
they're expensive. No.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with that. Does he? How does he cover up? Like, how does he do bioactive and cover up everything else? Like, what does he use?
So basically, he was saying that he in an enclosure like that, the only thing that's he would have the soil bioactive all around the lay box, and then like dig out a corner to just put the lay box in.
Sure.
And he would just leave it with nothing covering up over the lay box, if that makes sense.
But like, what would he cover the rest of the soil with, so that the Gargs wouldn't dig?
Because you're saying it just wasn't. It's bioactive, but it's not super thick.
Gotcha.
You know, they can lay there,
sure,
but if you make the most fluffy, beautiful dirt, the stuff in the lay box, so usually they'll pick that 9 out of 10, is what he said.
So he was doing bioactive like without plants, I guess, if the layer of soil is thin.
Yeah, must have, because I didn't see any exact pictures. We were just kind of describing it like I'm describing it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would not work with plants, I guess, which kind of defeats the purpose of some of the bioactiveness, unless you're doing pots. Yeah. But then I've talked to people who do potted plants, and that's the only thing they use, and that's their lay box.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
You know, so some of the big guns I've talked to do it that way. I know a lot of old school breeders do it that way.
So some of my bioactives are actually to where I'll just cover a lot of the soil as best I can with. Honestly, I've just been using whatever I have. So I've been using like I have a crap ton of like, you know, the water bowls that look like rocks kind of thing.
Yeah.
Using just like flat rocks, anything I can cover the soil with, and then just leaving a little bit of soil at the front. And the group of Gargs that just have like I open the Exoterra, and then I just put like a little circle of soil, and then they lay their eggs there. And then every time I go in there, I can see if they've been digging, and then I actually go each night to check to see who's digging and whatnot. But that's worked pretty well.
Nice.
But sometimes they'll dig so far under and back, like under stuff.
Yep.
But I don't think I've missed any eggs, so that kind of works well too. Just a little messier, I think.
And you keep groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have you found it hard to keep track of lineage with having groups, or are you pretty, consistent watching your girls and kind of knowing which one's laying when?
That's a good question. When I started out, I wasn't having that. Once you know, okay. So if I know, let's say I have a crested gecko, a male, his name's Father. These are actual crested geckos. I have one name, and he's paired with two females, Wilbert and Grits. Now, if I go in and I see that Wilbert is digging one night, and it's her first eggs of the season, I will literally put the date under her and have like labels on the front of the tank, and I get her eggs, and then I put, she laid on January 12th, 2024, and then I put the little date below her name on the tank. And then if I find eggs in there 2 weeks later, I know it's from the other female. Once I know those, then it's easy to keep. But if I don't know who laid first, then it's harder to keep. And I literally will just have to say, Father or one of these two. So it's easy if I can see one of them dig and lay. Like that, once I got that first date, then I'm good. Because then like a month later, I'll look for her digging again. And like I have a general idea of who laid when, essentially, if I find eggs.
Well, and what I found too is that they're very consistent after they have a schedule. So I have one girl who lays every 45 days. That's her schedule. like pretty much within a day or two
Nice.
of each other, and so I don't know if this is true with crested geckos. I know crested geckos lay more consistently, probably once a month, on
More
average.
frequently for sure. Like
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, better than so with gargoyles, I'll have some that lay every month, but a lot of them that lay once every 2 months, right?
interesting.
And so what I'll do is kind of track. I have a spreadsheet
Mm.
when they laid, when I got the eggs, and then I'll go to the next set, and then I'll just see how many days in between each one to
Sure.
help me predict. Now I don't keep groups together. I'm going to try to keep pairs, and if I'll have separate females and rotate the male in with the female, which is not ideal in my mind, but
Sure.
it works.
Yeah.
And so that's how I'm keeping track of lineage right now. But I wonder also, as females do they sync up together? Right.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
all of a sudden, your one girl lays 2 weeks earlier than the other girl, but then all of a sudden, do they all of a sudden sync up and you find 4 eggs and you're like,
oh no,
shit.
I haven't had that happen.
Okay.
I don't think they sync up. But another thing I do also is like if
They don't become BFFs.
they don't know, they don't have Sex in the City dinner together and stuff.
There you go.
But I basically, if I pair like a quad stripe male, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to make both females as similar as possible, so that
Yeah.
whether or not I know which one laid, they're going to be similar babies, just to kind of make it easier for me. So like I have a male quad stripe with 2 female quad stripes. They kind of are similar. Or I'll do it the other way, where it's like one female has a Dalmatian trait and the other one doesn't, so that I can tell
Okay.
from that.
Right away.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, because that's got to be better on the selling end. Because do you find that people more and more so want the lineage of all the geckos they're buying, or when you're at shows, do people even ask you for that? I know if you're selling online, they definitely do.
I would say it's a low percentage. I would say about
Interesting.
covering online and at expos, probably like 25% want the actual lineage. I give the birth date. Like if I ship something, I'll give all the info with the shipment. But most people at shows don't really want it. I always give my information. I was like, hey, if you want the birthday, if you want lineage, shoot me a text. But
right.
I think only if you're going to breed. Like if it's a hobbyist breeder, they're going to want it. If they're doing it, I mean, not doing it right, but like I would say breed, lineage, keeping track of as much information as possible. That's how I was taught, and that's what I think is important. But if they're going to do it that way, which I think they should, then they'll ask for it.
Right. Yeah. If it's just a pet, if it's for a teenager for their first,
or if
reptile, doesn't matter.
Collections of geckos that they don't intend on breeding, but
do those people exist? Sure. I think that's a great question that I've never asked. People who have a ton of geckos that just don't breed them.
Yeah,
I know that that's acceptable. Yeah. It's completely acceptable. But I've never met one.
I've met some.
Have you?
Yeah. Like
you've met a unicorn. I appreciate people that have that kind of willpower.
Oh, for sure. I think there are people out there who like the geckos like as like hobbyist pets, I guess, like
sure,
where they don't really intend on breeding. But I would say the majority do like, yeah, I'm thinking about breeding, down the line, and they eventually get there.
Yeah, I mean, if you have more than like, let's say 3-4 crested geckos, I'm assuming you're probably going to want to breed.
Yeah.
There's some people that, have a little dabbling of everything, right? Kind of like those pet tubers, or just people who are they're not on YouTube, but just have the room of like a mini zoo. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I know there's a lot of rescue people that take in animals that might have more than a few geckos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have yet to meet someone who just goes, "Hey, want to check out my gecko room?"
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I don't breed any of them.
That's true. Yeah. I guess if you have a whole room, you're probably going to, breed. But I sell ball pythons too and breed those, and like a lot of people I meet at expos just like having them and don't intend on breeding. I wouldn't say a lot. I would say like maybe 30% of people
Right.
who actually have collections of them.
I feel like ball pythons are a lot like bearded dragons in that they're just known to be chill big pets where it's totally cool just to deck out one enclosure, have
Sure.
one, or just
Yeah.
even if you have three,
Yeah.
they're you can sit and watch TV with them,
Yeah.
and it's a different experience where they do take up some room, right?
Yeah. It is a
Both the
different
ball
experience
pythons and
for
yeah,
sure.
but it's fun. So okay, I know we said we may talk about it, we may not, but
Let's talk about the
since you
economy,
bring it
baby.
up, let's talk about just how. Well, I want to go back to because you did a show recently and posted about it. What show was that?
What was the last show I
Just
did? I
recently.
think it was Conroe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've never vended before.
Okay.
I'm too new. I haven't produced enough.
Sure.
I was actually thinking, I reached out to a few people because my local show is Tinley.
Oh,
Believe
wow.
it or not.
Rough.
So, right, exactly. Schaumburg's closer, but it's not till later.
Might be easier to just move.
Right. And there's some other little shows, Scott Smith and things like that people know about. But,
Sure.
I was like, hey, I've got maybe 6 geckos that I want to move from last year.
Yeah.
And I reached out to people. I'm like, can I just borrow some space on your
Yeah.
table? I'll throw you some money or
That's what
a
I would've
percentage or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I think if it wasn't Tinley, I would have gotten a lot more yeses.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of no's.
Yeah. For sure.
Which I totally get. It's an expensive table. But when did you start actually looking at vending, and what's your experience been with, do you usually go there and make a profit, or there's sometimes it doesn't work out for you?
Yeah. So whenever I actually started online because it was during the pandemic, and that's kind of
Yep.
what, it was booming. And during the pandemic, people were buying reptiles. It was good for the industry. But
Yep.
I was selling them online and shipping them and all that. And I was like, okay, this is going well. I'm going to expand the business. And once I hit that point where I was like, I'm going to turn this into a business, I knew that I was going to want to do shows. It was just a matter of getting my collection to a point. And luckily for me, I knew Sean previously. So I think I spent the first year just going to the shows and just like talking to people, picking vendors' brains, learning as much as I possibly could about the shows, about the species I was working with, just everything. And
Great advice right there.
yeah, just like picking, all the small details, like when do you get here? How do you talk to customers? What's the most important thing? Just everything.
You sit behind the desk and you go on your phone.
Oh
the
yeah,
entire time, right?
You don't make
That's the way to do it.
You don't.
Just put up a sign. I hate people. That's why I deal with reptiles.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to answer the other part of your question is, so far, I think there's only been one show that I didn't sell anything, and that was because it was a new location for the herps. Like everybody, all the vendors that I talked to were like, "Yeah, this was the worst show that I've ever been at." But I've always at least broke even. I would say that as far as all my sales go, I would say it's 50% expos, 50% online. So it's definitely a big part of my. Can you hear my cat meowing?
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
I would say
we like cats though. It's okay.
Oh, I love cats. Yeah, there's 3 here.
Nice.
Word of advice: if you have cats, doesn't mean you can't have geckos. Okay, just anybody else.
It's true.
So I would say it's a big portion of like the business's income, and honestly, kind of more important because I get to actually face-to-face talk with customers. And I honestly think the expos are about like making connections with people, not just like networking as a business, but like just shooting the shit with people about geckos and stuff, and like talking with people that enjoy the same thing that I do. Like it's about the community, like, and I want to meet more like-minded people as me so that I feel more a part of a community, and, which is what all humans want at their
absolutely.
base. So it's important in that way.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that if I could give advice to anybody listening to this going to the expos, maybe you don't breed or you just want to get into a species, um, don't be afraid to chat with people.
Yeah.
People, we all got into this because someone took us under their wing
Yeah.
and taught us about this whole crazy world that we're in with reptiles.
Sure.
And I can name off 5 different people that gave me way too much of their time
Hmm.
and, just, could have been focused on their next sale,
Yeah.
but sat and explained things to me and went through things. And that, like you said, it's that human touch
Yeah.
that when I wanted to go back and buy my first gecko, guess where I went? Right. It's those
Yeah.
people.
The people who helped you out. Yeah.
Um, right. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people find that human connection in this hobby.
Sure.
Um, but it's also just a great resource because I know it's intimidating at first. I mean, I don't know if you seem pretty extroverted, at least on your videos.
I
And yeah,
fake it till I make it is what I do.
there you go. And
Secretly
I'm
an
pretty
introvert.
extroverted too.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of people in this hobby that I talk to that are complete introverts,
Sure.
and it's intimidating because whether it's you see someone on YouTube or you see somebody, with a big display, right? And it kind of looks like they're an authority.
Yeah.
Even if they are an authority, um, they're willing to talk with you. So definitely, don't be afraid because I was very intimidated. I'm outgoing,
Sure.
going up to,
Same.
some of the people I've had on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember the first time I went up to David at Tiki's Geckos, he wasn't even vending. I'm like, this is like a celebrity. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
am I able to do this?
Yeah.
Does he have security that's going
Yeah.
to bounce me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
My philosophy is like, I don't think there are dumb questions, especially because we're dealing with live animals.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you just live on the internet, then like asking a dumb question will get you, people will, think
Oh,
you
they're
don't
the
know this
worst.
idiot. But like,
Yeah.
that's how I learned. I was afraid to ask a dumb question to learn something that like you get to an expo and you're not a vendor, you're just like getting into the hobby. You just assume that everybody here knows everything about these animals and you don't, but you don't want to show that. You don't want to show
Yeah.
that you're a noob or like you don't know because like that's how you learn. And like
Right.
whenever people come by my table, especially like people that look quiet and that they're not like they're more introverted, I definitely try to talk to them and ask them questions about their reptile life, and most of the time those people are the ones that like end up opening up and being like, you're the first person to talk to me, like thank you so much. And I'm just like, yeah, like feel free to ask anything, like here's my number, like ask me anything, like I'm happy to help. Because like you said, like those types of people got me to love the hobby, and I would like to repay that back to the community that gave it to me.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Well, and you probably think of the things, the quote unquote stupid questions, right,
Sure.
that we had. And sometimes you can answer that for people if you're in person at these shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody might pick up a gecko at your table and go, oh, this is amazing, right? And you're like,
Sure.
yeah. Wait till you see it after I spray it in 20 minutes, what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
They fire up and fire down?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they don't even have to ask the question.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. So sales have been going pretty well for you.
They've been going, like, yes.
Okay.
But when I started the business, full disclosure, like I took out business loans because I wanted to,
Mhm.
I knew what I wanted the business to be and what it could be. And I took a lot of like the things I had learned via my bands in the music industry, utilizing social media, and all the people that I
Yeah.
met at expos, which is fine, are part of like most of the people that I met were older generation that didn't really utilize social media. Like obviously, I learned a
Yeah.
lot from Tiki's Geckos, watching all his YouTube videos because he was very forthright about how he did everything. But I didn't have a lot of money, so I was just like business loans. And so currently, the business is just like paying for itself, paying off the loans,
Mhm.
and then I have to like work to live and do a full-time job and all that. But I would say that like it is definitely, considering the climate of the industry, that I'm doing fine.
Okay. No, that's good. As long as it doesn't tip the other way, we're happy.
Yeah, sure.
Do you find that because you work with multiple species? I only work with gargoyles,
Yeah.
right? And so my view is very limited for right now.
Sure.
I'll expand eventually. With that, do you find that certain species sell better right now? I mean, I know the ball python industry, listen to them, they're all up in arms. The crested gecko industry saying they're all up in arms. You've got a little smattering of each.
Yeah.
Which ones do you see move faster?
The fastest are the Chihuahua geckos for me.
Okay.
That being said,
I like that.
I only have one breeding pair, and they give me
Sure.
eggs consistently, and I always sell those. Um,
But there's something to be said for that.
yeah, I think they're up and coming. I think they're going to be great. I'm trying to get more of them.
Pine Island?
I do mainland.
Nice.
I want to
Okay.
do Pine.
Yeah.
I want to do both, but they're expensive as adults.
Yep.
But to be honest, I don't know. That's kind of why I chose to do the ball pythons and the new cows is because like the market as a whole is bad right now. But if I go to shows, like I'll sell like one show, I'll sell like 5 ball pythons, no new cows. One show, I'll sell like 5 crested geckos, nothing else. Sometimes it's a smattering of each, right? But that's why I do all of them. I would say honestly, like besides the Chihuahuas, they're all kind of like the same. As far as quantity, probably Cresties, just because I sell lower end stuff.
Fair enough.
As far as money coming in, it's probably equal across the board.
Going back to just how you market your geckos, and now the shows, like you said, you've got a diversified things, and you doing pretty well. Not exploding because obviously nothing's exploding right now.
Right.
I saw you had some. I just did something the other day where I posted, "Let's have some fun." Right? I don't know if you saw my post. $100 off any of my geckos for the first person who pulls the trigger on a gecko tonight.
Nice.
Right?
How'd it go?
I got a bunch of bites. Nobody pulled the trigger, which is fine.
Yeah.
I just sold 4 geckos in a weekend, so I was on cloud 9. I'm like,
Heck
you know what?
Baby.
I don't really have to, cut my prices.
Sure.
But let's just see if something else bites and make things happy. Because little side story, real quick, a little tangent.
Sure.
My wife, I talk about her a lot on the podcast because she really keeps a tight leash on me with these geckos, which I appreciate.
Of course.
Otherwise, I'd be in debt for sure with some of the geckos. Yeah. So with that, I don't owe her. I don't like. I've got everything paid for 100% with all just my current geckos. But I promised her we got a puppy a little bit ago, and the puppy. I won't say exactly how much it cost, but it was quite a bit.
Pretty penny.
I said, you know what? I will pay for it with gecko money, and she's held me to it. So I'm like
statement, my friend.
Very, very bold because I said that before the market started to turn.
Oh,
and so the last 2 geckos before this were over $2,000 that I sold each.
What?
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking I just need to sell 1 gecko and I'm golden.
Sure.
Maybe something nicer. And and all of a sudden that just didn't happen. And I'm doing trades with people, and she's like, "That's not money coming in. Are you actually going to make any money?"
Right.
And so finally, I handed her some money the other day, and she's like, "All right, this is legit. Okay, nice. I can get behind this now. All right." Yeah. But anyway, so I'm trying to get, I don't mind getting creative. I'm not going to do that all the time, but I saw some really creative things you did. Okay. One was a buy one get one free. You put on like a real deep Texas accent.
Oh yeah.
I like that one. That was creative.
Thanks. Howdy. Woo-wee! I'm doing a buy one get one free reptile sale, baby. Here are them details. That's right, baby. If you buy a gargoyle gecko, you get a free surprise gargoyle gecko. If you buy a crested gecko, you're going to get a free surprise crested gecko. Well, hell, if you buy a ball python, you're going to get yourself a free surprise ball python. Now, this sale's going to last till the end of November. Well, god dang, it's a good deal. All right, I'm tired of doing that.
Thanks.
So how do you come up with those?
Dude, honestly, I don't know. It's for me, I have to be in a mood. I'm a creative person in general.
Yeah.
And to be frank, like the social media stuff gives me not anxiety, but it is like work.
It is work. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I know I need to be posting every day. I know I need to be doing like creative stuff, different stuff. But working like a job, also still doing music, and then just like feeding all the animals, making sure everyone's healthy, and then like taking pictures and posting pictures and keeping logs, and like it's a lot for one person.
It
Um,
is.
so it's mostly like if I'm feeling kind of funny, and I'm a goofy guy,
Yeah.
then I'll like, all right, I need to record something, and then I'll just kind of like, just freeball it, just
Yeah.
whatever comes out. I was like, oh, that day I think I was like, all right, well, I want to do a BOGO. I want to do a buy one
Yeah.
get one free, because I had been doing them like once a month and they were going well. So I was like, but I can't just keep posting the same. Hey, buy one get one free. So you kind
Right.
of gotta, if you're gonna do the same concept as far as a sale, then you have to switch up. You have to like reframe it, to get people's attention, essentially. Um,
Absolutely.
and I'm a Southern boy, so it just came
Yeah.
natural. Yeah.
You did Gecko. Very nice.
Gecko. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people love that
So,
Southern charm, baby.
that was fantastic. So
Yeah.
made me smile.
Thanks.
At least you got
Oh,
my
thanks.
attention
Good.
for sure.
That's what I just want to make
Um,
smiles happen,
yeah, no, I think that's what makes it fun too. Is a
Sure.
lot of people are afraid to look silly, right? We're all so
Oh, yeah.
serious,
Oh,
you
I'm an
know.
idiot,
And
I am not
dude,
afraid to
it's
show that
so
I'm an
much
idiot.
fun to look like a moron.
Oh, of course, it's the best.
Yeah. Well, especially one thing that helps me kind of get my inner idiot out, other than
Sure.
just being naturally me, is I've got 2 little kids under the age of 5, and
Oh,
so I
I bet they
have to
bring
be
it
a
out.
goof.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
baby.
absolutely.
Heck yeah.
So, because they'll be brutally honest with me, like
Sure.
it is.
They haven't
You know.
discovered how to lie yet. They're just going to be, yeah.
Oh, yes,
you're an
they
idiot,
have.
Dad. Oh, they have.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh man, I thought that was the truth.
Sure.
They're brutally honest, and they can lie about themselves. So
Damn.
it's people think little kids are innocent.
Sure.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
No. Actually, one of the best like piece of advice, like dad advice I ever got,
Yeah.
was you have to understand that children don't come out as these innocent little packages.
Sure.
They need to be actually brought into society, right? They
Sure.
are little savages. They will bite, scratch. They're worse than any pet you've ever
Sure.
had.
It's
And especially
basically,
with boys, it's totally true.
yeah, it's just like a ball of chaos that you need to organize, I think.
Yeah, which you can never do, you know. It is so, but it's fun. Where were I tangent off? Where were we? I was going to ask something about.
We were talking about
Her.
the social media, my BOGO sale,
Yeah.
cowboy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got any other big ideas coming up, or like you said, they just kind of come spur of the moment?
Man, I've been so like my car permanently died last week, so I've kind of just been dealing with
Ouch.
that. And then still like, I would say the social media stuff is like not, it should be a priority, but like it's like I gotta, like last night I posted 20 animals, and like I had to go like, I take nice pictures, I gotta upload them, I gotta edit them, I gotta list all the information, and then I just published my own like website. So now I'm putting
Yeah.
every animal on Morph Market and my website. And like, I got to do that first.
Yeah.
And so the social media thing has kind of been like, I've been trying to do it when I can. And hopefully I'll have some free time to like, because I can come up with good ideas if I sit down and have the time.
Sure.
And that's how I, come up with some other stuff. But like, I just need some free time to come up with it, man. But right now I got nothing.
I make some jokes multiple times, and one of the jokes that I make with my wife all the time is, if I spent half the time I do on geckos on working out, I'd have a 6-pack. Like
Yeah,
it's just
natural Brad Pitt, baby.
just consistently.
Yeah.
I actually for a little bit thought about keeping my gecko room in. I have a workout room down in my basement that I don't use.
Yeah.
I need to.
Basement.
And
God, I'm so envious that you have a basement.
Oh, we have to.
We don't have basements down here. I'm so jealous.
Well, you flood, don't you?
I mean, if we had basements, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it gets really cold, almost too cold for these guys.
Sure.
But and mine's completely unfinished. But I for a while had them down there just to try it out with some space heaters, and I'm like,
Sure.
I'm still only doing the geckos. Like I haven't gotten on that treadmill or,
Yeah,
lifted a
right.
single weight. Maybe I do one bench press and then I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
time to spray the geckos.
that's true.
So yeah, it works.
Can't have
Very
everything.
fun. Yeah. No, you got to pick and choose, but
True.
eventually I'll hopefully choose health. If we focus on our animals' health, you got to focus on ours. Do you mind if I pull up your website? Because I think it
No,
looks
go for it.
really nice. I did.
Oh, thanks.
So what's the web address?
It's just RhacN'Roll.com.
And
RhacNroll.com.
now, did you make this? Did you have somebody make it for you?
Did it all
I'll
myself.
pull it up here. Nice.
Yeah, did it all through Squarespace, and it took, oh my god, it drove me insane doing it, but learned a lot along the way, and I'm really
This looks
stoked
awesome.
on how it came out. Definitely still stuff I want to change, but I just wanted something like simple, easy,
Yeah.
navigable.
So you just dropped about 20 animals. Any gargoyles? Can I click on this?
Yeah, I just dropped a red orange stripe.
Nice.
That should be on there. Her name is Margot. I name all my
Nice.
geckos.
Let's see. Even the babies?
So whenever I put them into my spreadsheet is when I name them.
Mm-hmm.
I usually give them like a month or two to get up to size to where I can tell like what their morph is. But yeah, the top left one.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice dorsal stripe there.
Yeah. I've gotten into the problem where like I only I hold back so much. Like
Yeah.
it's I'm like, oh, next year's gonna be sick.
Right.
But and which is fine because like it allows me to put up affordable geckos.
Which sell faster, I find right now.
What's that?
Which I find sell faster. Out of the, I think I posted 8 geckos.
Yeah.
The 4 I sold were all under $300.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's kind of honestly where my business has been. That's my demographic.
Yeah.
I haven't really tried.
It's a nice blotch.
I want to have lower end stuff and then higher end stuff.
Okay.
Like I don't want to get out of either one, but I just haven't gotten a lot of I have like a million projects that are going to be higher end stuff, but I just haven't gotten babies yet because a lot of them are grow outs and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. There's that
Ooh, this is a nice orange. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Now, are your mainlands a certain color or?
Yeah, so like I don't know if you know about Chihuahuas, or at least in my experience.
A little bit, yeah.
The babies come out just like brown, kind of like that.
Yep.
But the mother and father
So
are like
cute.
vibrant green and red. They're beautiful. And I explain this to everybody who buys one from me, but like they're definitely not going to be that color all their lives. That one's about like 2.5 months old. But
yeah, this
they're
one here.
super gorgeous as adults. And I actually haven't seen.
What would you say? It takes about 6 to 8 months, depending on their genetics, to color up
to develop
the
color?
chewies. Yeah.
I would probably say like at least a year, to be honest.
Yeah, a year.
At least
Okay.
for the ones that I have. This is again the only pair that I've had, the only babies I've had. I've kept other single Chihuahuas, but as far as breeding, just the one pair.
Nice. So, like, if someone wanted to see the parent pictures, would they just contact you and just ask for them?
Yeah. Or like, yeah, I mean, I have like a contact page and like I put my actual number on there. I think I say at the bottom of the page, like, just text me with a question.
That's always nice of you.
Yeah. I mean, ideally I would like to have the parents posted, but it's just, it's just more work.
It's a lot of work.
For. Yeah.
Yeah. I just launched my website too.
Nice.
And so geckocove.com. It was funny is everybody who puts that in, you have to put www. I don't know why. I didn't use anything fancy. I used Google websites, whatever the one to create that was.
Well,
I used to use Weebly.
But www. Wow.
Yeah, isn't it weird how you have to?
That is weird. Oh, that looks cool.
Yeah. Thank you. So I had fun putting it together.
You did it yourself?
I did it all by myself. Yeah, it just took the time doing that, and I actually used that platform because it's the easiest. If you use Google Photos, instead of having all the files on your computer, like if I wanted to work on it anywhere on any computer, if I want to change the photo, it all goes from my Google Photos.
Oh, that's cool.
because it's all incorporated with Google, which is pretty sweet. Where if I used Squarespace or Weebly or any of those other ones,
Sure.
I'd have to download the files, which they'd probably be nicer, but I don't think it matters.
Yeah, no, it looks great, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I try to match up all the parents and Lineage stuff, just because as much as right now I'm selling some of the less expensive geckos, even with those, I feel like I've been asked for Lineage. I think it's a gargoyle thing even more. So
yeah, I would definitely say with Gargs, just because like as babies, you don't really know what they're going to look like, so it's good to know the parents.
yep. Yeah, no, and even like with I've got one gecko right here who came from my girl Eve. If you're on the website, she's on the breeder female page.
Yeah, I saw
Super red girl, and people are probably sick of hearing about her, but got one baby left from her. She only had 2 babies last year, and a bunch of people are interested. But it's one of those things. Do you want to take the risk? Because it's not 100% with a red base that she's going to be a red base. Because I paired her to Pralin last year, and he's got gorgeous red stripes, but he has, just a regular white kind of brownish base.
Dude, she is gorgeous. Oh my
Isn't
God.
she?
Holy cow.
So if you want to take a risk on her baby, I got that one for sale.
Wait, why would
But-
I risk again?
Well,
'Cause you
just
don't-
because
you're
there's
not
no
guaranteed to
guarantee
get that
that the baby's going to come out that red. Like I still think, just based on what mom looked like as a baby,
Mm.
I mean,
Wait, who
just
did you pair
to be
with
an
again?
Pralin, the first
Oh,
male.
Yeah, yeah.
Here, I'll pull
He's
up my
gorgeous,
website too, since we're talking about it.
Oh yeah, you got the lineage of him. That's cool, man.
Yeah, playing around with that. So let me throw this up on the screen for everybody. Perfect. So yeah, if I go to my breeding geckos, this is the male Pralin. If someone speaks French, it's from where I had my honeymoon. It was actually the island where I had my honeymoon in the Seychelles.
Oh,
So I'm probably butchering that name. But
it's
yeah,
all good, dude.
Eve, I paired those two. This year I've got Pralin's paired with Hawaii.
I was
and
gonna
I've
say
got
Hawaii
raffles.
looks sick.
Hawaii was my very first gecko.
Holy shit.
I picked her up not knowing anything about gargoyles other than I liked her.
Good
So-
random choice. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yes.
she's super cool.
Thank you.
And that's what I'm saying. Like as a baby, I'm looking at a picture of her as a baby.
Yep.
And then as an adult, there's like night and day. Like you don't really know until they grow up. Like she still
You
has the
don't, but
coloration
there's
as a baby,
certain
but-
tells. Like, yeah, if you look at her as a baby, just looking at the stripes there,
Yeah.
I mean, you knew she was going to be a 6-stripe gecko.
That's
Um,
yeah. Oh, I just
That's
saw
one of the
that.
only photos of her where she actually has her original tail.
I was looking at the other picture.
So I made the mistake. Don't put 2 females together too young. I was trying to do a trio,
Yeah.
and Eve took off her tail the first night. So that was the first and last night they spent together.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually her babies, I'm watching them develop, and some of them I traded away, pretty young,
Sure.
are looking just like her, if not better,
Who'd you
which
pair
is
her with?
really exciting. So last year I paired her with Kilauea, who's not on here. I actually sold him.
Gotcha.
Excuse me.
God bless
Having a
you.
coughing attack. Oh man.
You got
But
some
yeah,
cool breeders.
thank you. I'm trying. Did you see my holdbacks?
I don't think so.
Go to the holdbacks. That's where I'm getting excited. Because you were talking about how,
Ooh.
yeah.
Oh, the blotches.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. Tiger.
Those 4 right there. And then even my Deegs is probably my number 1 that I'm really excited for as far as my males go.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, those are some pretty sick holdbacks, my friend.
Yeah. So I've had some nice pickups. Some people be real nice to me. The one that doesn't look impressive, but if you click on it, is
Seashell?
Tiga.
Oh, Tiga. Tiga
No.
looks impressive. What are you talking about?
Well, if you click on her, it gets even better. Oh, I got that paired to the wrong one. I found a glitch. So never
Oh, I
mind.
did pair to the wrong one. I was like, wait
Yeah.
a second. This isn't the right.
I'll fix that later. You can tell I put it together. But yeah, Seychelles is actually raffles, and then a girl that I had from Northern Gecko who I just traded away. But yeah, so it's now Seychelles Junior. But if you click on Seychelles, it'll show you the parents with her, and she was nice.
Nice.
Sorry, audience, for coughing all over you.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yo, Seychelles Dad, what up? That's a good one.
Yeah, isn't he fun?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's paired with Eve right now. So those babies are definitely going to be red. So if anybody wants to put a reserve on some of those babies, come chat with me.
Heck yeah, dude. I love your guess.
Anyway, thank you. No, it's a good time. And so, unlike I've had lychees, I've had, chewies. I've had one or two cresties, not for very long. I actually gave my crested gecko to my cousin. She's doing amazing with it. She's spoiling it like crazy. But I'm just trying to solidify into one thing for right now, and then I'll branch out again.
Heck yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Love to see. Can't wait to see what else to come from you, buddy.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too is, just because you have great looking geckos doesn't mean they're going to produce fire every time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you have, good genetics with some subpar geckos, some of the babies that come from those are like, where did you come from?
I think it's what Tiki says is trust the blood. I think a lot of it has to do with the bloodlines.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Here's one. I'm going to ask you a few more questions.
Sure.
What do you think about bottlenecks with certain geckos?
Do I think it exists?
What's that?
Do I think it exists?
Well, do you think it already exists, or do you think that we're headed that way? Like, for example, I don't have any of Tiki's blood in my geckos that I know of. And that's sort of on purpose, but not really. I love his geckos. Don't get me wrong. This is no hate towards, the Dracula line or the Deadpool line or any of that kind of stuff. But I feel like everybody and their mother wanted it, right?
Yeah,
it's probably
100%.
one of the most well-known bloodlines. And again, for good reason. But eventually they're going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think they're
right.
They're already kind of doing that, to be honest. I think it's good. Like, for me, I have a little bit of Tiki's in my collection, and I have a little bit of the bacon line from Carl. And I think a little bit of it, like if you're pairing it with geckos that are, I think introducing that blood, taking it out of the bottleneck and then putting it in with other geckos that do not have any relation to them is fine. But like, as far as Tiki's and the Deadpool, they're like, there's only so far you can go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it'll be interesting, I think, when we start looking for things that aren't related to Deadpool, right?
Sure.
Or like, for example, I was talking to a few breeders in Canada. They need to find stuff that's not related to Northern Gecko, And Northern Gecko's huge, but even with their different breeding groups, there's just so many potential bottlenecks there.
Yeah, and I mean, in theory, since like you can't import them from New Caledonia anymore, like it's going to happen. Like, just scientifically, we are limited, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to happen. I just don't know if it'll happen like in our lifetime, just because of the
Hopefully
sheer
not.
amount of new cows we have, in the States and that are domesticated. But theoretically, because we can't import them from the wild anymore, then yeah.
Yeah, I think it's already happened with like crested geckos have way smaller of a gene pool, from what I've heard just initially. And so like the Dalmatian gene, especially if it's a phantom Dalmatian, the really clean looking Dalmatians, like they're all related to each other. 100%. It's worse than parts of the country that we make fun of. But when it comes to gargoyles, they have already more diversity. They were imported for much longer. And also, there are some crazy babies that pop out just because they are, we're not working with true genetic traits that, are recessive or it's all polymorphic. So, you could get a really cool gecko and start a new line, and the parents were absolute like, eh.
Yeah. Totally.
So I think that's the other cool
Gargs.
part about it. Yeah.
100%.
Very cool. All right, let me ask you one last question, then we'll wrap up for tonight.
Sure.
I posted this earlier on Instagram, and I'll ask you.
Okay.
If you could go and steal one other breeder's gargoyle and incorporate it into your stuff for a year, who would you go and steal from, and what would the gecko be called? Or what's the gecko?
Easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Tiki's Gecko posted.
Okay.
It was like a blood red, like kind of Deadpoolish looking gargoyle gecko. And
Yep.
I commented, and he was like, "What should I name this gecko?" And I posted tampon. And then I posted below it. I was like, "If this comment gets the most likes, you have to name it tampon." And it ended up getting like 200 and something likes. And
nice.
I have not heard back. But if that gecko is named tampon, that's the gecko I want.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about,
Yeah.
which is his best production of all time.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Right? And if we name the best gecko that has been produced
It would
in
be
the United
amazing.
States,
Oh my God. But yeah, definitely that one.
At least get a brand deal, call it
Yeah,
Tampax
that's
or
what I'm saying.
something.
Yeah, you get some sponsors. You don't have to worry about selling geckos anymore. You just
Right.
do the social media thing, and yeah.
Oh,
But
Lord.
definitely that one for sure.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Wait for the day where we're like NASCAR, and as gecko breeders, we're like repping all the different brands.
Yeah. Sell out.
That would be awesome. Oh, most of us would, especially for a good
100%.
PVC enclosure.
Oh yeah, baby. I would.
I'll sell out.
To revamp
I've said this
out.
out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I said Milwaukee custom cages,
Heck yeah.
or Wisconsin custom cages. I keep butchering the name.
Yeah.
Wisconsin custom cages. I will sell out for you.
Yeah.
So
In a heartbeat.
awesome. Dude, Chase, this has been fun. Thanks for chatting
Bobby, thanks for
geckos
having
with me.
dude. Heck yeah.
And
Had a great time.
yeah, I can't wait to see kind of what your production is this year.
Thanks.
And will you be up at Tinley anytime soon, or are we sticking down south?
Just sticking down south for now. Just transportation wise, honestly. Tinley's definitely a goal.
Yeah.
I would love to get there. But probably only once I'm doing this full time, once my loans are paid
Yeah.
off, will I be able to start to travel out of state.
Fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
when you do, I'll buy you a beer and we'll hang out.
Heck
Sound
yeah,
good?
dude. Get a little deep dish, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a few good places that are off the beaten path. So
Dude, I've
you
played
got to
in
trust the
Chicago.
fat kids.
Oh yeah, baby. I've played in Chicago a bunch. I love Chicago.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a great place for music and all that good jazz. So
Yeah, man.
well, my kid is throwing a temper tantrum, so I'm gonna get going and take care of
All right.
that. But you have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll
Thanks,
chat
bud.
soon.
All right, sounds
All right,
good.
have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
So I'm just gonna stop this real quick.
Have to wait
Sorry
for
about
it.
that. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more Gargoyle Gecko content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there. I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove.